Hello everybody, this is the infamous Niklas Sandin from Katatonia and LIK. You're listening to Jet at Metal Messiah Radio.
Greetings everybody and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Today's guest is Niklas Sandin, who a lot of us know as the bass player in Katatonia, but today he's here to talk a little bit about his other band, LIK, based out of Sweden, who's about to release a new album. Welcome to the show, Niklas.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So Niklas, growing up, what kind of music did you listen to, and what was the first instrument that you played?
Actually, when I grew up here in Stockholm, it was basically just a mixture of everything I could get my hands on. And now we're talking about before I turned 10. but later on, I opened my eyes for a little bit heavier music, and that was through my sister, who was listening quite frequently on this radio show called Gruvan, I believe, in Swedish, and there you could do all these kind of competitions and win CDs and vinyls. And later on, she let me adopt those CDs, and amongst those there was Lord Belial and Dismember and all those kind of things that would shape my taste of music until this date.
So when did you start playing guitar, Niklas, and was that your first instrument of choice?
It wasn't my first instrument. Actually, it was the alto saxophone, which I played first. And I think I started playing that when I was 8 or 9 years old. And I did that for maybe 4 or 5 years before because of the influences of the more heavy metal music turned me into a guitar player. I think I was 13 or 14 when I grabbed that instrument for the first time.
And do you remember getting your first electric guitar, Niklas?
Oh yeah, I was scooping these ads it was pre when you're searching ads online. I was looking for guitars in the magazines here, those ads for sale. And eventually, after both me and my dad scooped those early mornings, because you needed to be the first one calling, otherwise they would be sold already.
Right.
We found one, and I took the commuter train and found this Horner and Scorpion guitar, which also sounds very heavy metal. It's this kind of Jackson-shaped guitar in red metallic sparkle, which I have to this date, but it's tucked away somewhere.
Well, it was nice. At least you had your parents' support on all of this.
Oh yeah, they've always been very, very supportive.
So what was the first metal band that you heard that you liked?
That's because I have a quite bad memory, I have to admit. I can't really remember the very, very first, but definitely it was Iron Maiden and that kind of genre and those kind of bands. That was the first influence, definitely. And I listened to lots of Metallica as well there in the beginning.
So how did you get the gig with Katatonia, Niklas?
It was actually through their tour manager, Ronnie Backlund, who I had a band with briefly, just before the Norman Brothers left the band. And so I knew both him and lots of other mutual friends. And so I think that they kind of turned to Ronnie, asking him if he knew someone that would be easygoing enough and competent for the job. And I guess I was the first one that he tipped them with. So that's kind of the story how I went into that band. And I actually remember when I got the email from Jonas, who I've met also a few times before. I was working at the post office at the time, and I got this email with him being quite cryptic about it. He was asking if I would be interested in going on tour with a band that he's singing in, and because they need a replacement for someone who just left. And of course I just went up to the Katatonia.com website, and I saw that the Norman Brothers just left there, so I knew exactly what the gig was there. but he didn't want to reveal too much. But then a few hours later, he called, and then we discussed a little bit what would be like expected of me, and what kind of time frame I would need to take off from work and everything like that. So that's pretty much like how it went.
And now, when was it that you decided that you wanted to form Leak, and why did you form this band, Niklas?
It's actually Chris, the drummer. He played in a band called The Resistance a few years back, and he needed somewhere to house his drums and practice. So he got in touch with Thomas, who plays in Nail. So he then eventually got this one corner in the Nail rehearsal room. And since it's really, really boring just sitting there and being in the drums by himself, he asked if Thomas would like to be there and jam a little bit, just to keep his drumming, like consistent. And after a while, they talked lots, and they realized that they both had the same burning passion for the old school Swedish death metal, especially the Stockholm branch. And so they just lightly talked about maybe doing a few songs and see where that would head. And then I think it just took maybe a week or two, and then that Serum 141 was written. And then they decided to call me and ask if I wanted to be a member of the band. And since Katatonia wasn't too active at the point, I was more than eager to get myself into another project there.
And now, was this like the first death metal band that you were involved in?
Yeah, actually the first death metal band. I've been playing technical thrash, and I've been playing black metal in a band called Siebenbürgen, and lots of other underground acts before. But this is the first like raw death metal band, and I've been longing to play that for quite some time, but I haven't had the opportunity to find people had the time to create something and be a part of something until now, and I'm super happy that it eventually happened.
What are like some of the bands that were like inspirations to you, like getting into the Leak, like where you're like, oh, I love this band and now I get to play like kind of in that style? Was there any like bands?
Definitely, I think that it is the one like beacon in our band is the love for Dismember. We have some kind of like very, very like burning passion for that band, and just that kind of style that they incorporate, those melodies, and and that they have like that really, really good groove.
Right.
And it's not like too tidy or anything. And we all have like this love for how Fred Estby played the drums back there in the days, and like his approach to the whole thing.
Well, we love our Dismember over here too, Niklas, so...
That's good. That's good to hear.
So, your second release is about to drop now, your first one on Metal Blade Records, called Carnage. So how did you all approach this album musically, Niklas?
I think that if you mean like in terms of songwriting, and
yes.
I think it was just something that happened naturally, because Thomas is constantly writing riffs and coming up with songs. So even though you're about to release something, he's already thinking about the next songs where we're gonna write and record. So everything just happens like totally naturally, and this is the exact same, like the thing that we want to do. We want to keep the sound and have the Boss HM2 pedals there, gain to max, and just go on as we did with the first record, because it's kind of like, it's almost like a homage to that kind of scene that was there in the 90s, this band. So I don't think that will change in the future either.
And what are like some of the subject matters of the album?
It's pretty much like what you would expect to find in old horror movies, in gore movies. It's undead people, zombies, and the like end of the world kind of themes, and even some stuff taken from our own everyday life. But it's a little bit like cryptic, in like it's intertwined in a fictional matter, so it can be pretty much everything. And one thing that we don't do is we don't release the lyrics neither online or in the artwork, because I think that our lyrics, like they become so much better if you're listening closely to what's being sung, that you're like, all right, you're like getting something new for each listening. I think that you would definitely laugh if you would read it, but then you have everything there the first time. But now you can actually like, you get to see or hear new stuff every time you listen. I think that's better for our lyrics, and it makes the listening experience better as well.
So tell us a little bit about this album and how you guys recorded it. Now, how did you approach this whole process?
We did it exactly like we did last time, and the meaning that we went to Lawrence McRory, who has been recording and producing the first album. So and that went so smooth, and we know him from before, and I think we've known him for over 10 years. So it's like kind of coming back to a friend recording. So everything is super smooth, and but now actually he has moved into Dugout Studios, where Daniel Bergstrand is housing. And so that was a new experience, a little bit bigger studio and a little bit bigger production. And we decided to do like we did last time, record almost all the guitars together with the drums to get that kind of live feeling, and more feeling of playing together in a rehearsal room setting than recording the drums first and then putting everything like in layers on top of each other. So that was proven to be successful in this case as well, because otherwise I think you drag too much of like spirit and vibe and edge out of this kind of music if you're making it sound too tight. So this we did all without any click tracks or those kind of new inventions.
And you didn't really do a whole hell of a lot of editing and stuff like that either, did you?
No, not at all. It was just like a little bit of tweaking, and of course like the everything, like everyday thing that you need to do before releasing an album, just tidying it up a little bit, but nothing like putting things to grid or like alter stuff. It was just pretty much, well, what we played is what you hear.
I was just gonna say that. So basically, what you're playing is exactly, or almost exactly, what you're gonna see live.
Exactly. That's the purpose as well. So it won't be like a bleak copy of what you hear on the record. It's actually just two rhythm guitars, one in left and one in right. So nothing like that. They're overdubbed 1,000 times to make them sound huge. It's exactly what you would hear live.
And it's kind of nice too, Niklas, because a lot of times people hear this and they're like, I can just imagine. But when you actually hear this album, you do kind of get that feeling, but without it being like you're in the garage with like a cassette tape and a microphone. It's not quite like that. But you still...
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's kind of like taking that kind of energy and that kind of spirit that you have on those recordings as well. When you hear bands doing those, like the first demo recording with just a cassette player, but in a professional manner. So
thank God.
It's kind of like that energy and that vibe, but with the pro sound.
Yeah, and it absolutely does come across that way. So tell us a little bit about the cover art and that artist too, Niklas.
Yeah, we went with Mark Riddick, who has done a T-shirt for us before, and also revamped our logo, which was originally painted and sketched by Anders Nyström, who's also in Katatonia. And we went for him before he could even listen to one song, and we're mutual fans of each other's work, so he really likes Leak, and he was totally up for doing the artwork, and he nailed it. He was like, well, what do you think about this? And we're like, yeah, that looks super. It looks like a Carnage, and it was actually even before we got the title Carnage. So we're like, okay, but this is so fitting and everything.
Oh wow!
All these random puzzle bits just comes into place very nicely.
And now, that's kind of cool. Like you said, you didn't even have the name of the album, and you kind of got that artwork, and you were like, perfect.
Oh yeah, and he got it, even though maybe he's psychic or something. He can see in the future, or he's influencing us in some kind of black magic kind of way.
Oh boy!
Your album should be called Carnage. You know.
And so it shall be done, Niklas.
So it shall be done. Yes.
Now, do you guys have some shows coming up for this year with the band?
Actually, we have little shows planned, but we're working on it, and I think that we just got into this kind of like in between the chairs, or what you should call it, like, but because we signed with Metal Blade quite late, and the album isn't coming out until 4th of May there, which also happens to be the day that you celebrate Star Wars. So I think it's gonna be extra special 4th of May this year.
Now, what about?
Yeah, but the shows there, yeah, and but we're actually in the lookout for a booking agent, and that can take us out to play festivals and all those kind of things. But we have some stuff coming up that I can't talk about now because it's not announced yet.
Right. Now, what about Katatonia? Are you going to be doing any touring with them this year?
We're on a break now because of hiatus because of it's a long-going band, and I think that everybody in the band just needs to take a little bit of a break and focus on other stuff, just to recharge the batteries and go on it even with more impact later. But when that happens, I have no idea. That's just what time will tell. So no shows booked with Katatonia at the moment either.
So is there any other projects you're working on, Niklas?
No, actually, now Leak is my only focus, and what I give like all the attention to. So that's full steam, 110%, just working on that.
So if people want to learn more about Leak, what's the best sites for them to go to do that?
I think it's definitely either Metal Archives or just go onto our Facebook. We will do lots of updates there, and cool things are coming quite soon.
So are you enjoying your rest here, or are you anxious to get back out there?
I'm very, very, very anxious to get out there and playing, definitely.
All right, guys.
That's the most fun part with playing music. For a crazy audience, you know.
I was going to say, I'm like, okay, so Katatonia's on a break, and you don't have a lot of things with Leak. It must be driving you freaking crazy.
Yeah, because I'm quite restless. I want to be at least do some amount of touring each year, and now it's quite stale. So I'm working my ass off to try to make things happen.
Well, it's kind of like you said. It's kind of like you said too. You came, the album's coming out a little late in the season. It's like smack dab in the middle of like all the touring season. But I have a feeling next year you're gonna probably wish you had a break, Niklas.
Yeah, probably. Let's see. Maybe my eye bags will grow even bigger.
maybe. so,
Let's see.
so there you guys have it. The Leak has a new album coming out on May 4th on Metal Blade Records called Carnage, and you can learn more about the band at the websites that we mentioned. And Niklas, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us here today, and all the best to you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was fun.